All right, Steeler fans, it's Friday. It's the second half of the show. It means it's time for Jerome Betz in the All Betz Are Off segment. What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
Man, it's going good. I'm extra excited this week because I'm going to be in person
Yeah.
for this Steelers matchup in Baltimore, if we can make it, with all the snow coming this direction and that direction. So we'll see. It's going to be fun, though. Excited.
Yeah. I mean, so you're going to be at the game. Lay it out there. What's the itinerary? How in the hell are you getting to Baltimore from Western North Carolina, and what's your itinerary look like?
Yeah, so I'm going with my brother who's in Atlanta right now, and then my other brother who lives in the same area. So Matt, my brother in Atlanta, he's coming up Friday night. He's going to spend the night, and then we're all going to carpool up on Saturday, and we're going to leave around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's like an 8-hour drive. We're going to skip the tolls and skip the West Virginia mountains in the snowstorm. We're going to go around it, and we're going to get up there and try to get in a couple hours before the game, make sure we have enough time to find parking and get to the stadium and everything before things get crazy. So it's going to be fun though. And then after the game, we're going to drive back through the night to North Carolina, get in about 9 a.m. and it's going to be fun.
That's something. So are you guys staying on the southern side of North? Are you guys going like more just straight east on North Carolina, get to 95 and then take 95 straight up to Baltimore?
Yes, that's the plan right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me if I'm wrong though. Tell me if that's not a good idea.
No, I mean, that's a safe play when it comes to snow and avoiding the mountains in West Virginia. Obviously those can be treacherous. And you're going to have more snow there. But no, I mean, I hope you have a safe trip. I hope you have a great trip. The last time you were there, correct me if I'm wrong, last time you were at a Steelers game, not an NFL game, a Steelers game, was it not at M&T Bank Stadium in Ben Roethlisberger's last game?
You are absolutely correct. It was. And Jeff, I'm 3-0 when I go see the Steelers in person. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Yep.
Yeah, I hate when the people it's like they put this pressure on themselves, like Kevin Smith had a great record, and then he saw the Steelers the last 2 times in Philly. Of course, that record's going to go down there. And I know that Rich Schofield had a great record post COVID, and then that got snapped against Cincinnati. Don't put any pressure on yourself. It's not your fault if they win or lose. Just enjoy the game. You have good seats though.
Well, they're up high, but they're on the sideline, so it's not quite 50-yard line, but it's you get the whole field. And I've being in that stadium before, we were kind of in the corner end zone, and these will be a lot better than that, a little bit lower down in the upper bowl. But yeah, along the sideline, so we'll get a good view of everything. And honestly, Jeff, being as somebody who likes to go to football games, there's not really a bad seat in the stadium. You can see everything. It's just, can you deal with the game day situation? And I, for one, enjoy it because I don't mind the crowds, I don't mind the banter back and forth, and I don't mind waiting afterwards to get in, or before and after to get in and out of the stadium. So
well, better you than me, man. I can't take those Baltimoreans, and when they have all day to get lubed up on their natty bow and all that stuff, like can't do it. Like I can't do it. So
need an extra 2 with the cold this time. So we'll see.
Goodness gracious. Well, hey, good luck, and like I said, be safe. But let's talk about this game. The Steelers, not a lot of people giving them much of a chance, and it's funny when I heard John Harbaugh, old Wang Harbs, he came out and said, Zay Flowers is out this week, but we'll have him back for next week. And I was like, well, wait a second.
Yeah,
next
what's
week,
going on here?
You got to win this week. Yeah, who's putting the cart before the horse here? Like, I feel like this is something that if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm showing this clip and saying, guys, this is what they think. And you hear TJ Watt, and I felt you feel for TJ Watt. I don't know if you saw his media availability today, and this is Thursday. Man, that guy was just like, he's never won a playoff game. And he was drafted in 2017. He's never won a playoff game. And he goes, I just want to win a Super Bowl. He said, you see these guys that come back, and the guys that were great, but they didn't win a Super Bowl, they're phenomenal, but there's something about those guys that win a ring. And I just want to win one. Gosh, it kills me, man. It kills me for these guys. I want to see them win. What are your early thoughts on this?
Me too. Yeah. It just, there's so many players here, especially on that defensive side, right? Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick falls into this category for me. It's like they've poured blood, sweat, and tears into some teams that weren't really that good. And with their star power and Mike Tomlin's ability to kind of raise the floor of the roster overall, they've had shots, but they weren't ever really good shots, right? Outside of that 2020 season where things kind of fell apart for them, but they had the good record. They won the AFC North. That felt like their best chance. And then, you lose in a wild card game against the Cleveland Browns. And so I really do feel for those guys, and I wish them all the best in the upcoming run here. I don't know if this is, can't sit here and honestly say I believe this is a team going to a Super Bowl, but do I think they can come in here against a Ravens team that does kind of feel a little overconfident? There was some video circulating earlier this week of Ravens players calling George Pickens soft. And, you have this now where Harbaugh seems a little overconfident, saying that we will have him back for next week. And maybe that's just a slip of the tongue, but either way, that's going up on the bulletin board. The spread's going up on the bulletin board. So, and then you come off a game too, where I think the Steelers can sit back and honestly say, hey, we were just a couple plays in our last meeting from this being a really close game and having a shot in the fourth quarter, a fumble by Russell Wilson and a pick six by Russell Wilson. So clean up some of your own mistakes, and you're right where you've always been in this matchup. So I don't think Pittsburgh goes into this thinking that they're this big underdog. And I don't know if Baltimore is coming into this game with the mindset that this is a tough Steeler team. I don't know if they're going to be as mentally ready for what the Steelers are going to be. Now, do I think the Ravens are more talented? Yeah, I do. I think they're a better overall football team, so that might win out at the end of the day. We'll see. But the Steelers should come into this game with confidence that they can put up a fight, and with the idea that they have a real chance of upsetting a Ravens team that feels a little bit high and mighty, if you will, at this point of the week.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the Ravens are drinking their own Kool-Aid a little bit. They've won 5 games in a row. You can't take that away from the Steelers. Have lost 4 games in a row. There's no reason why the national narrative shouldn't be exactly what it has been, and that is that this is going to be a blowout. There's a reason why the spread opened at 10 and is now down to 9.5. It's one of those situations where on paper, this game is over. But I was on a couple podcasts this week, and people were asking me about the game, and everyone that said, like, what do you think? My answer was always the same. If you followed this rivalry closely, you know several things. Very rarely is it a blowout. You know that weird stuff happens in these games. And even when you think it's a foregone conclusion that a team is going to win, it doesn't always work out that way. You can go back to both sides. You could talk about Ryan Mallett beating the Steelers at M&T Bank Stadium when they could have clinched a playoff spot, I believe, and he shocked them. You're like, what in the hell's going on? You could talk about Charlie Batch going to M&T Bank Stadium, hitting Heath Miller. He dives and hits the pylon and wins that game. No one sees these things happening. Yet here we are, because the Steelers and Ravens are different. They are different. So let's talk about the game in and of itself. When you think about an advantage for the Steelers in any capacity, where do you give the Steelers an advantage in this matchup?
I think it's just the explosiveness along the front four of the defensive line, and I include TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith in that. And when those guys are playing their best football as a collective, Cam Hayward and those two guys, they're the most disruptive front four in football. And it was portrayed obviously and often earlier in the season and through the first 4 weeks, through the first half of the year. And then you get to that part where the slump hits and TJ Watt wasn't 100%. You talked about that last week. Alex Highsmith was just getting back in the lineup as well. Cam Hayward's kind of been holding it down while those guys are getting healthy and better and back into the swing of things. I think that they're back to a point where you feel pretty comfortable about that group. Hopefully Cam Hayward's feeling better by this game. It didn't seem to matter last game against the Bengals. He still was was extremely disruptive. But you look at that group as a whole, and I think that is where the Steelers' advantage, and it has always kind of been that way against the Ravens. Can those guys wreak enough havoc up front to make Lamar Jackson, who's not going to sit back there and do like Joe Burrow did last week, where it was under 2 seconds every pass play, right? Lamar Jackson doesn't play that ball game. He wants to sit back there, let the plays develop, work the ball down the field, use his legs and move around. And if the Steelers superstars up front, the guys who wreak the most havoc, are the most disruptive, and are the best athletes on the team, can control that, then I think that that's where the Steelers make up a lot of the ground talent-wise, that you would say, well, this Ravens offense, if you look at it across the board, is just better than the Steelers on that side of the ball. So the great equalizer to me, the great advantage that the Steelers have, are if those guys can come motors ready and play hard, play fast, and play disruptive.
Love the fact that you brought up the front, because I think they're healthy. I think they're going to be ready to be disruptive, like you said. But let's also not forget a couple things. The last time the Steelers played in Baltimore, not too long ago, Joey Porter Jr. left the game early with an injury, tried to come back in the second half and was not able to. So he was out with his knee injury. I believe Dante Jackson left that game with back spasms as well. There was a point where you had, I think it was Corey Trice and James Pierre as your outside cornerbacks in that game. Not ideal.
And Corey Trice had just come back that week or the week before too.
Exactly. Yeah. And then on top of all of that, you throw in the fact that Zay Flowers is out for this game. So he's not going to be playing for Baltimore. Well, now this is interesting. Now Joey Porter Jr. on Bateman, that sounds like a good matchup for the Steelers. Nelson Aguilar on Dante Jackson. Okay, I can take that. I can handle that matchup. You have Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, or a number of players that you want to try and take and minimize the tight ends. I think the Steelers match up well with this team without Zay Flowers in the secondary. The question is can they stop the run? Can they not let Derrick Henry get going? Something Coach KT Smith talked a lot about in the first half. We'll see if they get it done. But let's talk about predictions. I'm curious where you're thinking. Let's talk about the current spread. The Steelers are getting 9.5 points with an over-under of 43.5. Jeremy, what do you think about this game? What's your final score?
Well, just starting off with that over-under, I think that is spot on. That's basically where I have this final score. And to me, this is, as it always is between these two teams, the ultimate battle of wills. And when you have an offense structured around the bulldozing explosiveness, because Derrick Henry really is a unicorn in this league at running back, a guy who can just pound the mess out of you for 4 quarters and then take it the distance as far as it goes, right? 98 yards, not a problem. If he gets out in open space, he can do that. So the battle of wills was won in the last matchup by the Baltimore Ravens. They just came out and punched the Steelers in the mouth. They played a different style of offense than we had seen them do before, and the Steelers were not ready for it. In past games, the Ravens had abandoned the run and gone to Lamar Jackson and said, hey, beat these guys through the air. For some reason, the Steelers get an edge on that run game early, and Baltimore backs off of it. And they say, okay, Lamar, go out and be MVP, Lamar, and beat us. And he hadn't been able to do that against Pittsburgh. He didn't need to do that last week. He just kind of sat back, let the running game do its thing, was a part of that running game, and then picked the Steelers apart in the red areas for 3 touchdown passes. So if the Steelers can come out and force the Ravens out of their game plan and kind of dictate things, that's why on the Steelers fixes from yesterday, Andrew and I talked about which side of the ball is more important for a Steelers victory. We both agreed it was the defense. The defense has to dictate to the Ravens how they're going to attack them. And it's going to be tough. Both of those tight ends are very good. Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. That's a tough matchup for the Steelers, despite what could be a better matchup for the Steelers on the outside when you talk about Zay Flowers missing the game like he did earlier. All that being said, this feels like a different Ravens squad than I've seen enter the playoffs the last few years, where there was internal concern whether or not they could make a run because of the issues that they have had in the past going in and winning playoff games. I don't feel that same vibe out of them this year. Lamar is more willing to just do what he can on the ground if the plays aren't there down the field. And I think that that's dangerous. The RPO game is better this year with Derrick Henry, Todd Monken in their second season. So despite the fact that I think the Steelers will be game for this one and will have a shot late in this game, I do think the Ravens pull out the win. And I'm going to say the final score is 23-19 in favor of Baltimore. So just under that over-under, but the Steelers cover the spread. I think that is the easiest bet to make this weekend. If you're either side of this matchup, that this is going to be a close game, closer than the spread would indicate. And so to me, it comes down, can the Steelers offense, it's Mike Tomlin ball, right? For this one, can the Steelers offense not make mistakes? And can the Steelers defense dictate to the Ravens how they are going to attack them? If that is the case, I think the Steelers keep it close. Ultimately, though, I think this Ravens team is a little bit more talented than the Steelers can handle, and the Ravens walk away with a win.
Yeah, and I think the question, too, is can the Steelers weather the storm early? Because in the last 4 or 5 playoff games, the Steelers have been trailing by double digits really early in the first half. They have to be able to withstand an early surge, let it settle in, and then let it become a typical Ravens-Steelers game. It's going to come down to which team can create the costly turnover and get the pit to the takeaway. Do we see Minka Magic? Last time he had his hands on the football was in this stadium against Lamar Jackson. Do we see Minka Magic? Do we see TJ Watt with 100% healthy, wreaking havoc in the backfield with Lamar? Trust me, he's done it before. With all that said, picking the Ravens. Hell no, I'm not picking the Ravens. Get the hell out of here. I'm picking the Steelers in a high-scoring affair. It's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. This has, to me, an over. I'm thinking the over on this game.
Okay.
I think the Steelers, Coach Kevin Smith said this in the first half, and I agree. The Steelers are going to have to score over 20, and the Steelers defense is going to have to keep them around that 20-point margin. I have the Steelers winning this game in a very exciting fashion, 29-27. 29-27, because I think this Ravens defense can be had. They've improved a lot, but I think they can be had. And I think the Steelers are, I hope and pray they're willing to pull out all the stops, and let's see what happens. So I've got the Steelers advancing to the divisional round, and let's hope that happens. That would be exciting for you.
Yeah, it would be. Go to 4-0 in my in-stadium experiences as a Steelers fan. I would love that. Let me ask you this, Jeff. What would you enjoy more out of a Steelers win? The fact that they won their first playoff game in, the number of years we're all very well aware of it, or the fact that the high expectation Ravens get to go home losers again, and this time to the Pittsburgh Steelers? What's going to be more enjoyable for you?
Beating the Ravens, hands down. Like it's just the other part, the Steelers stuff. That's like by proxy. I live in this damn state. Okay.
Yeah.
If the Steelers win this game on Saturday, every Steeler fan in the state of Maryland and in the surrounding area has free reign to just walk around with their heads high, and Ravens fans will be absolutely gutted. I love it. I can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait. I hope it happens. I have hope. I have faith. Everyone should too. But Jeremy, man, I'm going to let you get out. You probably got to get packing and getting ready to go. But any final thoughts on what your let everyone know what's coming up on podcasts and stuff?
Yeah, so definitely check out the Steelers Fix. Andrew and I had a great discussion about the offense versus the defense, which one's going to play a bigger role. And while we both think that the offense has a role to play, obviously, the defense it's what's dictated this matchup for the Steelers in the past. I think that's the formula this time too. So check out that conversation. We actually picked every playoff game in that episode as well. So, every wild card game. So check that out. And then the Draft Dynasty show, we're really honing in on the draft. We had a couple big decisions this last week. Carson Beck, quarterback, is not coming to the NFL draft. He's going to stay another year, and he actually is in the transfer portal, leaving Georgia. So, big news like that. We're going to cover all of that on the Draft Dynasty podcast. Go check out my 1 year away article on fansfirstsports.com, and then stay tuned to all of it. I'm looking forward, hopefully, Jeff, to your score being correct, and I get to walk out of that stadium telling Ravens fans how it is in their home stadium. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, man. Hey, have a safe trip, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Win, lose, or draw. Take it easy, man. Enjoy it.
Have a good one, Jeff.